Alright, this is going to be a very odd video, but I really just wanted to share something with you that happened to me over the weekend. This is going to be more of a stream of consciousness kind of video, so there's not going to be too much editing in this film. So what happened this weekend was I had some drinks with some of my friends, and one of my friends asked me what movies really influenced me to do this channel, and what movies really influenced me as a kid, or growing up, just in general. And this is a really simple question, but I really didn't think about it, because I couldn't come up with anything, really, besides a couple of things which I'm about to show you. I haven't really thought about what really influenced me to love movies so much. So I just really wanted to share a couple of my movies that really just influenced me as a child and really influenced me into liking certain categories and certain things that I love today. And a lot of the movies that I love right now, I didn't see until I was a lot older. And so, but these movies are the ground and the foundational pieces that really got me into film. Alright, I'm going to start off with my favorite movie of all time, movies, The Lord of the Rings. I really can't discuss this in one video. It's one of the hardest things to do for me because everything about this movie, these movies, I really enjoy. This is action, adventure, drama, comedy, horror, thriller, sci-fi, romance, you name it. It's got some of my favorite actors of all time. I love Sean Bean. I love Boromir. He's my favorite character, but that really doesn't get too much into the film. These three films, I remember watching Fellowship when I was younger, and just noticing how much of this action adventure fantasy tale really, hit me. Because I also watched Harry Potter, which also really influenced me as well, but this one hit me on a different level because it really, I think it sparked my transition from a kid into a young teenager. And I really think these are the movies that really got me into reading and really got me into wanting to look up more things about this mythological world. So yes, I definitely recommend checking out Lord of the Rings. These are my favorite movies of all time. If I really had to pick one as my favorite, it'd probably be The Two Towers, because Helm's Deep is just so badass. But anyways, that's enough about Lord of the Rings. I could talk about this for days, and how much I love this film. Alright, the Disney movie that got me the most, Aladdin. On top of Aladdin, there was Lion King and Toy Story. Those really influenced me as well, but I picked Aladdin because I love Robin Williams, and I really enjoy this tale with a magic flying carpet, a little monkey, Abu, Aladdin, and Jasmine. Something about this film really sparked my interest because it's something I've never seen before in a cartoon, and it really introduced me, maybe in a stereotypical kind of way, to a different world. But really, I really enjoyed Aladdin because it really made me feel for the characters, and I remember hating Jafar as I was a kid. I was like, that guy's just a snake. And it's ironic because he is kind of a snake. And really cool visual effects. I can't believe this came out a couple years before, maybe a year before I was born. That'll tell you something. But yeah, definitely check out Aladdin. Definitely check out most of the early Disney movies. Well, this is not an early Disney movie, but in my childhood, this is one of my earliest movies and memories that I have. And so definitely check out Aladdin because it brings a happy, dorky smile to my face. My next movie as a kid is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I have a lot of good memories. I've seen this about 100 times. I've seen this movie way too much. But one thing that I explicitly remember was the river scene. When I was a little kid, I was terrified of that scene because Gene Wilder just freaked everyone out. I remember all my friends around me just like they didn't want to see the scene either. And almost everyone I talked to around my age, if I ever bring up this movie, they automatically all say that this scene kind of scared them as a kid because it's just this trippy, psychedelic fear scene that Gene Wilder's trying to scare Charlie and the rest of the gang on the boat down the Chocolate River, and it was one of the most terrifying things in the world. But it also reminded me how much I like candy and how much greed can get you so far in life, and really it's honestly a moral tale as well. And that's something I never really realized until a little bit later on as I was growing older and understood morality and understood tales. So yeah, definitely check out Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's a great film. Gene Wilder does great, and it's a good classic. Alright, this might be one of the dumbest comedies ever, but I love Billy Madison. This movie, if you know me in real life, you know I'm a jokester, and I love jokes, and I like really stupid jokes that make no sense, and really just fit in a bizarre category where it just makes people uncomfortable, kind of like what are you talking about? I love quoting movies, and this is probably one of the movies that I quote the most as a kid. Oh, Billy Madison. Oh, I can't talk like that. I'm Sandra. Sorry about that, but peeing your pants is cool. Consider me Miles Davis. That's another quote. I could quote this movie all day. But anyways, this movie was so ridiculous. I can't believe my parents actually let me watch this movie. I was probably 8 or 9 when I saw it, but this is a stupid movie. But it's a really fun movie, and I definitely recommend it if you like really ridiculous comedy. And early Adam Sandler is really good stuff. Definitely check out this, Waterboy, Happy Gilmore. All those films are really good, and Adam Sandler was in his prime, for sure. Alright, more on the comedy side. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This is probably my favorite comedy movie of all time, and I'll talk about that later when I have my top 10 comedies. This is such an, again, along the lines of Billy Madison, except this is more clever because it's more slapstick, and it's building on references and on other things. What can I say about this movie that really hasn't already been said by many other people? This movie really affected me a little bit later on, actually, in my development. I was about 13 or 14 when I saw it, and I remember my next door neighbor explicitly coming up to me. He's like, I just bought this film. It's like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I've always been told to watch this movie, but I never have sat down and watched it. You want to come see it? And then I came over to his house, we watched this movie, and we died laughing, especially at the rabbit part. And if there's actually an ongoing joke with me and some of my friends that I'm terrified of rabbits, it's all because of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I can't trust them anymore. Definitely check this out if you like ridiculous British humor. This is just John Cleese and everyone in this movie is just hilarious. The Monty Python troupe, it's just Graham Chapman and Terry Gilliam and Eric Idle. They're all just fantastic. I've used this this kind of comedy in my life as much as I can possibly do. Let's talk about the movies that really influenced me really in an emotional level. First would be Forrest Gump. This is actually probably one of the first Tom Hanks movies I've ever seen, and I just remember watching this. I've seen this probably about 50 or 60 times. All I want to say about this movie really is that Tom Hanks does a fantastic performance that really, as a kid, I was kind of just like amazed by all the crazy things that happened in his life. And obviously this is a fictional story, but I kind of saw it when I was younger as a more true story of like, this happened to all these things happened when, you know, to this guy. Definitely not a real story, and I definitely was a gullible kid. However, Forrest Gump showed me all these sides of comedy, romance that is never returned, war, and then talks about just drama and how this guy who has these issues really has to struggle and survive in life, but like for some reason always exceeds the limits of expectations of everyone, but just reality as well, because there's a lot of crazy things that happen, like him running for I don't know how many months straight. It's like, why'd you run? It's like, oh, I just felt like it. Definitely check out Forrest Gump. This is one of the movies that really just hit me a lot younger than I thought it was going to hit me. I was probably 8 or 9 when I saw this movie. And I'm going to talk about a couple movies that really hit me in the emotional spot, and then we'll move on from there. All right, we've already talked about this movie a million times. I'm not going to bring it up too much. Romance, definitely watch Princess Bride, because, yeah. Definitely check out my review on it and also my top 10 romantic films. Alright, I want to talk to you about the first movie that actually made me tear up like crazy. That's Secondhand Lions. This movie, I don't know what about it. I guess I saw it when I was about probably 12 or 13. And I really didn't watch movies to watch, you know, make me cry, or I always wanted to watch a happy movie or some kind of action adventure movie at that age. And I always wanted to watch something that really, you know, didn't really affect me, and for some reason I went to the theater with my cousins. I remember this, actually. We had McDonald's right before, and then we went to the theater. I went in there, you know, I was like, alright, this is an interesting film. It's like, oh, there's a lion, there's some animals that they bought. There's these two, you know, older brothers have to take care of this kid who they don't really even want to mess with. Kid comes up to them, and pretty much this is a morality lesson, about, you know, doing something that really you're really uncomfortable with. They're very uncomfortable with this kid, and they're telling him stories about their life, and for some reason it hit me on an emotional core when I saw it, and it was the first movie that really made me cry. I remember crying in the theater. I'm like, holy crap, like I didn't expect this movie to make me cry. Secondhand Lions is about a movie about a lion and, you know, two older uncles. It's crazy. But yeah, definitely check out Secondhand Lions. I'm getting a little emotional right now because I love this movie. And I definitely recommend checking out Secondhand Lions. Alright, my first rated R movies. I actually want to bring up Gladiator and Braveheart. These movies simultaneously really brought up a lot of the crazy things in my life, and I remember watching them when I was younger. I think I saw some of these edited in school, actually. I remember seeing them several times in high school and a couple times in junior high. But I remember these being my first rated R films, and I'll just talk about Gladiator first. Gladiator, you know, man, what an epic tale of it. I mean, I've recently seen Spartacus, so I mean, this is pretty much a remake of Spartacus, Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus in 1960. I love war films, and I always have. I love from Saving Private Ryan to Gladiator to Troy to Fury to the Pacific. There's all these things that really influenced me early on, and for some reason, as a guy, as a boy, really enjoying war and violence. And I just remember really enjoying Maximus's story, being an underdog and hating the Emperor. Joaquin Phoenix is just an awful person in this movie, and I just remember rooting for this guy because a lot of crap happens to him in this movie, and he deserves vengeance and dignity. So definitely check out Gladiator. Freedom! This movie is fantastic. It's one of the first rated R movies I've seen. It has a really strong scene in the very, very beginning that kind of just, when I was younger, I didn't really understand. It was the rape scene that happened between the English officer who took his wife on the day of his wedding to deflower her. But yeah, Braveheart is a fantastic war film that really just another tale of vengeance and things that are going awry to this guy, and he just snaps, and he just destroys the English. It's a story about the Scots versus the English. Yeah, it's fictionalized, but it's about William Wallace, who is this huge folk tale that really got me interested in history, because both these movies simultaneously got me into history. History was my minor in college, and also just a huge interest in mythology was a huge interest of mine when I was younger. And honestly, just looking deeper into stories and storytelling for things that people are really interested in, and also just this epicness of life. Something about these epic tales of these movies really just influenced something about, something bigger than my own normal day lives. And something about that I really enjoyed. Anyways, I'm ranting now. Alright, I'm going to talk about this movie right here. This is actually the first movie that got over my horror. I was always really scared of horror movies. I remember watching a couple of movies when I was younger. I've seen scenes of The Exorcist and I'm like, nope. I walked away. I remember one particular instance, I was watching Signs downstairs with my mom, and it was the scene where there's the kid's birthday party and they had it filmed, and then the alien walked by and it scared the crap out of me. And so I ran upstairs and I didn't watch that movie again for a long, long time. This is, when I was about 12 or 13. I don't know, I just have really bad memories of horror films. I just remember being terrified of them for the longest time, until I saw I Am Legend. And this movie with I Am Legend and Will Smith, I went to the theater and I really was, I think this is around 2005. Oh, really? 2007. Alright, well, it took me a while to get over horror films, I tell you this. But around 2007, I went to this movie. I was scared. I went with some friends. I remember, and there was a lot of jump scares in this movie. But for some reason, this was the transition piece for me to get over my horror scare. I wasn't afraid of horror movies anymore. I saw this movie a couple times in theaters just to try to get myself over horror films. And now I love, horror films, at least specific ones, like I said in my top 10 horror movies. I've really embraced the genre as a whole. I'm not terrified of these things anymore. I don't know what that says about desensitizing, the youth and, everyone who's a millennial nowadays. But anyways, definitely check out I Am Legend. This is actually a pretty decent film, adapted from a book. This movie is really good about a man who's just alone in the world and trying to deal with it with his dog and dealing with these supernatural creatures that, really are the last remaining remnants of the known world. And I really definitely recommend checking out I Am Legend. I'm going to cut it short here. This is a long video, because apparently it cut off really early. Check out all these films. Let me know what you think down below. Like, comment, share your thoughts, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.